The Aprilia RS457 is one of my favorite motorcycles in the country. In fact, if I have to be honest, I was this close to buying it. But then one fine day, I took it out on a road trip and I realized that it is a little too sporty for my liking. It is an RS after all. Now it seems in just over 1 year, Aprilia has listened to my prayers and they have come up with this. This is a brand new Tuono 457. It shares virtually everything with the RS457, but it has got a handlebar, it has got an upright riding stance, and that means it is more street focused. But Aprilia tells us that it has got the same soul, the same essence, and the same thrilling nature of the RS457. Now, is that true? Well, we are in Bangalore around Nandi Hills, so let's take it out on a ride and find out.
Let's go.
Now, first of all, let's understand what has changed on this motorcycle and what has not compared to the RS457. First of all, of course, it is a street naked, so it has got the street naked roadster face. It looks quite aggressive, but it's unlike any other Tuono that is present on the market. The RS457, for example, it resembles its elder brothers, but this one doesn't. This is a completely new face. So I think personally, it would take time for it to grow on me. I think I would have preferred it with the regular Tuono face, the twin headlamp setup, because I think it gives you that brand recall that Aprilia is famous for. I would have definitely wanted that, but this is also growing on me. I won't say I'm still sold on it, but again, it has got that aggression. Now, coming to the cycle parts, it has virtually everything identical to the RS457. So you get the same suspension, you've got preload adjustability with this, you've got the same wheel size, same tires, same braking hardware even, and even the rake and trail are identical on this motorcycle. The fuel tank, well, it has been redesigned, but the tank capacity is again more or less the same. The aluminum frame is the same. The engine, 457cc, 47 bhp and 44 Newton meters of torque, again exactly the same. Even the foot peg positioning is exactly the same as the RS457. So what has changed is the handlebar. Now this doesn't get clip-on bars, this gets a proper handlebar over here. So you've got a lot more leverage here, and of course that changes the riding stance as well. So now when you sit on this motorcycle, you're not hunched down, you're sitting in a more relaxed posture, and it feels quite comfortable. But again, how is it on the road? How does it feel on the move? We'll tell you in a bit. Now the switchgear quality, everything is top notch. I don't think there is anything to complain about. Similarly, the instrument cluster, it's exactly the same as the RS457. So you get the same set of electronics, you get the same dash also. So everything is familiar. Even the riding modes and the traction control settings, everything is done in a similar fashion. So in that regard, there's nothing new. You feel like you're still operating the RS457, but with a handlebar. Now coming to the weight and dimensions, they are also identical on this motorcycle. So this weighs 175 kilograms curb weight and 159 kilograms is the dry weight. Even the geometry is the same. Like I said, the rear swing arm is the same, the tire size is the same, the wheel size is the same, braking is again the same. But what has changed crucially is the sprocket. Now the sprocket, the final drive ratio, they have tweaked it differently, as in this has one tooth more at the back so that it gets that better acceleration, because again it is a street naked. It looks more premium, it looks like a bigger bike. So I think in that regard, Aprilia has packaged it really well. Again, the rear section also, it's identical to the RS457. If you see it from the back, in fact, you can't tell the difference. Similarly, the rear suspension is also identical to the RS457. So on that front, I'd say it's 95% an RS457 because the cycle parts are exactly the same. But now let's cut to the chase and find out how's it to ride on our streets. So today we are going to go out on some hilly roads, and we are in Bangalore. We are heading towards Nandi Hills. So we don't have a lot of time with the motorcycle, but I'm sure it will give us our first impressions, because the RS457, if you remember, we've ridden on the track, we've ridden on the road, and we think it is a very aggressive and a very sporty motorcycle. So let's see how much has changed in the Tuono 457. Now first of all, the RS457 and the Tuono 457, they share the same 457cc engine, same power output, same torque, same gearing, only the final drive ratio is different. But largely, it feels like it has a bottomless supply of torque, and that's how the engine feels. The throttle response is really crisp. It is really refined, especially at low RPMs, and you never feel it's lagging in any department. Now, the engine performance, of course, it feels a little snappier at lower RPMs because of that sprocket change, but overall, you can't really make out the difference. Although Aprilia tells us that this, because of its shorter gearing, is faster. To 0 to 50, it's going to be the faster motorcycle of the two, but 0 to 100, the RS457, it is going to be the quicker motorcycle of these two. So that shows the priority of both the motorcycles. This is meant more for that stop-go street traffic, but the RS457, it is an outright speed machine. Although the top speed of both the motorcycles is identical, which is at around 175 kilometers per hour. So this can also do that, although there will be a lot more wind blast on this motorcycle. Now, other than that, of course, it is a little vibey at the top end, because around 8,000 or 9,000 RPM, you definitely feel the buzz from the pegs, from the handlebar, and even from the levers. So that is there. Again, very identical to the RS457, because the RS457 also at higher RPMs, it has those vibrations. But I'd say these are good vibrations. They are not a deal breaker, at least for me. So again, the star of the show is that engine, because that engine hasn't changed, and it feels exactly like how it is in the RS457. So in that regard, I think both the motorcycles are more or less the same in terms of how they make you feel, how exciting the motor is, and how seamless the performance is. Now, coming to the ride and handling, well, that's the area where there is a bit of a difference, because first things first, I have to tell you that the RS457, it is a very sporty machine. So when we rode it on the track, it really impressed us. It put out a staggering lap time, and on the road also, it is very aggressive, and you really love throwing it around corners. Now this one, well, it's not as aggressive because it has got a tall handlebar. It's also quite wide. But I think this felt a little more stable than the RS457, especially when you're going into a corner. But I think it had a lot more stability. The steering, of course, felt a little slower compared to the RS457. The RS457, to me, it felt a little twitchy on the road. I thought this felt a lot more planted and gave me a lot more confidence, especially over bumpy sections of roads. So I think that the leverage on the handlebar that you get, well, it definitely inspires more confidence. And I think that's why on the road, I'll definitely prefer riding this motorcycle. Having said that, the front end on this, when you're going for outright acceleration, it does feel a little light because it is a naked. So if you're doing those acceleration runs, you'll definitely feel the front end going light with every gear shift. So that you feel that kind of lively nature of a street naked is still there. So it definitely has that soul that I absolutely enjoyed. And on top of that, of course, the exhaust, it produces glorious sounds. It feels like a big twin motor, so I really enjoyed this motorcycle. When you really gun it on open road, you'll absolutely love the experience. But for me, what really stood out is it felt a little more stable than the RS457. And if I was not going to do track days, I think I'd pick this over the RS457 because first of all, it's also more comfortable because of that upright handlebar. And secondly, it also felt more stable around corners. I think it has more stability, even though the wheelbase is exactly the same, the tires are exactly the same. I could ride this faster than the RS457. Now, one more thing that I'd like to address is the braking performance, because a lot of you have been asking us how's the braking performance on the RS457. But personally speaking, I think on the road, if you're not going hard and fast, the braking performance is adequate. It's not lacking in any way. Of course, if you take these motorcycles on the track, well, that's where you might feel there is a bit of fade. But on the road, honestly, so far, I have not felt anything on the RS457 or the Tuono 457 today. However, one thing that I probably want on both the motorcycles is a heel plate, because with the foot peg positioning, so what you end up doing is your foot ends up resting on the swing arm. So when you're going over a bumpy section of road or even any road, when you're taking a corner, you want that support. Well, you ultimately rest it on the swing arm and it keeps on moving. So it is a bit of a distraction. We have already told you guys this about the RS457. So this hasn't changed with this motorcycle as well. So that is a slight niggle that I found during riding in the hills. Now, one more thing that I want to talk about is the riding posture. Now, of course, it is comfortable, it is upright, but the foot peg positioning is slightly rear set. So you sit in a bent over position. That's what I thought. It's not completely upright, it is slightly sporty. But if you are a taller rider, I'm 5'9", so I didn't feel any problem with that. But I thought if you are going to be a taller rider, you might feel the riding posture, it is a little tight. The rider's triangle, it is a little compact. So if you are someone who says 6, you might feel this is a cramped motorcycle, because on the RS457, you know, the bars are really low, the clip-ons are really low, so you can at least stretch out. In this, it's a little up, and the foot peg positioning is the same. So it does feel a little cramped, probably if you are a taller rider. On a similar note, the seat height is exactly the same as the RS457, and even the seat cushioning is the same as the RS457. So in that regard, I thought it was completely fine. But then again, we only got to ride it for 90 minutes. You would like to do a comprehensive road test with this motorcycle in the streets. So let's find out how soon we can get this motorcycle. But so far, I think I just absolutely loved the experience. So on the whole, if I have to conclude this whole package, well, I have to say that I'm really impressed. And that was a given, because the RS457, like I said in the beginning, is one of my favorite motorcycles. Now this has made it more friendly and it's more street focused. So of course, you are going to like it even more if you're riding on the street. At the same time, it's also priced at 3.95 lakh ex-showroom. So that makes it 25,000 rupees more affordable than the RS457, and yeah, you just miss out on the fairing. Otherwise, you get everything that you get on the RS457. Even the accessories, well, you can fit the same accessories on this motorcycle as well. So I think in that regard, the pricing, it is spot on, because for someone who doesn't want a track motorcycle, but he still wants that Aprilia parallel twin performance, well, you can go for the Tuono 457. As for me, would I buy it? Well, in a heartbeat, I'd say yes. If it's all about the riding experience on the street, I absolutely love this motorcycle. But if there is a deal breaker on this motorcycle, it is the front end. I think it is an acquired taste, so you really have to get used to it. So hopefully, I get to ride this motorcycle a little more to make up my mind. But so far, as a package, objectively speaking, there's nothing wrong with it. And if I have to be honest, I'd say it's better suited than the RS457 for our riding conditions.